Hello my lovelies, welcome back. Quickly, there's a few things. I know I look a hot mess today. I look like I'm sweating out of my arse and my skin is horrendous. But I had a reaction, but I need to film a video because obviously the Christmas season is upon us and I don't want to be filming over the Christmas period, so I had to get some videos done. But like I say, I know I don't look great, but I'm here. It is what it is. Anyway, how are you? I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic and I hope you're staying safe. If you're new here, my name is Sally and what I do is I talk about true crime cases, urban legends, conspiracy theories, creepy things. So if you like that kind of thing, if you're interested or even a little bit obsessed, then please remember to hit that subscribe button. Like, comment and share my videos if you see them over on Facebook. I would really appreciate that. So yeah, last week we spoke about the Yorkshire Ripper. That was fucked up, okay? There's no other way of saying it. That was a fucking mess. But this week I've decided to change it up completely and finally talk about something else. Finally talk about potentially a ghost story. So obviously I have my disclaimer on the front, but I also want to add the fact that if you're scared easily or creeped out easily, this probably isn't the video for you. So just swipe off, go and watch all my other ones. It's absolutely fine, I won't be offended, but this is just your warning now. Because today we are going to be talking about the Black-Eyed Children. Now, I had never ever heard of the Black-Eyed Children. Didn't know what they were, didn't know they were a thing, but apparently they are. And let me tell you, they are creepy as hell. So black-eyed children, or black-eyed kids, as some people call them, are potentially demonic entities, or they might be ghosts, or they might be aliens. Nobody really knows what they are, but they are children, aged usually between the age of 4 and 16, sometimes 18. And there's a lot of stories out there about these black-eyed children. A lot of the stories you can probably find on Creepypasta. That's where I found some of the stories I'm going to tell you today. They are very pale, as you can imagine, and the main distinctive feature that people see when they see the black-eyed children are the fact that their eyes are black as charcoal. They don't have normal eyes. And another thing that people always say when they see these black-eyed children are that they are not necessarily scary looking initially, but they emit something that puts a genuine fear in you, and people can't seem to explain it. It's like they feel like they need to help them because they're children, so morally they need to help them, but they give off this feeling of absolute fear. So what they do is they will try and gain an entry to your house or to your car by claiming that they need help. And a lot of people say that the reason that they come as children is because a lot of people want to help children, and a lot of people will fall for this. There's not many stories on what happens when they actually gain entry. I did manage to find one, which we'll talk about today, but it appears from the things that I did see is that when they enter your home or enter your life or your car, they bring about bad things to happen in your life. For example, illnesses, ailments, bad things in your relationships, things like that. But like I say, I could only find one story on Creepypasta. A lot of the stories were people that didn't allow them entry into their home. So it's said that the first stories of the black-eyed children came to the internet in approximately the 1980s. However, it really took off in the 90s. A Texas reporter called Brian Bethel claimed to have an encounter with two of the black-eyed children in Texas in 1996. He wrote a story about it that was published, and then he went on to have interviews and sell a book and things like that. And then other people started coming forward to say that they'd also had encounters with black-eyed children. And then it kind of just spiraled and it just generated more stories that ended up on the internet. So I'll quickly tell you the story of Brian Bethel. He was in his car in a car park in 1996 in Texas, and he was about to head home from work or from wherever he was when he heard a tap at his window. When he looked over, he saw two young boys stood at his window, and they had their hoods up and they looked to be between the ages of sort of 16, 17. The boys asked Brian Bethel if they could get a lift home to their mothers because they intended on going to the movie theatre to watch a film, but they'd left their money at home. Brian said he didn't feel threatened, he didn't feel worried, they weren't armed, they just looked like normal children. But when he was about to unlock the door and let the boys get in the car, he realised that he didn't feel right. He didn't feel necessarily safe. And when he glanced kind of up his window to look at the boys lifted their heads and he saw that they had black eyes. This completely, obviously terrified him. He didn't know what they were, so he decided that he would drive. He drove away very quickly, leaving the boys in his dust. As he went to leave the car park, he obviously looked in his rearview mirror to see if the boys were okay or why ever he did it, I don't know. When he looked up into his rearview mirror, he noticed that the boys were gone. And this was in a matter of seconds. So Brian went home and did some research, and he realised that he had had an encounter with some black-eyed children. And like I say, he wrote a story about it that was published in a newspaper, and it just took off completely. After his story had been published, a lot of stories came forward, and the one that I was talking about where the woman actually let the children gain entry to her home is a woman in Vermont. She was at her home late in the evening with her husband, and she heard a knock on the door. When she went to answer her door, two young girls were stood there. They were freezing from what they could only assume was the cold air, and they were young girls, probably between the ages of 5 and 6. Her being the lovely woman she is, she let the children into her home. She took them into the living area where they sat on the sofa, and her husband started tending to them. He started trying to get them warm, and he was asking them questions, but they weren't really saying much that they could get out of them. Anyway, this lady, who doesn't share her name, went into the kitchen. She made the children some warm drinks and some warm food and came back into the living room. The moment she walked into the living room, she noticed that the girls had eyes that were black as charcoal. At the moment, she was obviously frozen in fear. She started to feel really scared, and she just stared at these girls, and they stared back at her. And directly at that moment, her husband's nose started to bleed. The husband obviously tried to tend to his nose. Meanwhile, his wife was still stood looking at the girls. But then abruptly, they stood up and they said, "Our mother is here, we're going to go." Literally like that. And they walked out of the door. The lady then followed them to the door because she was confused. She was intrigued. And she saw them get into a black car with a person that seemed to be wearing a black suit. Anyway, over the next few weeks, the couple both started getting nosebleeds quite regularly, so they went to their local doctor's surgery, and unfortunately, they were both diagnosed with a form of cancer. I mean, it's weird. Is it real? I don't know, but it's weird. I'm also going to talk to you about one more story. This is the one that got me, and I think maybe you probably need to read it, so I'll try and link it below. I read it quite late last night and managed to freak myself out, obviously. So this story starts with a young lady who is sleeping in her bed with her husband, her 21-month-old baby girl, and her new 3-month-old puppy, Lucy. At approximately 1 a.m, the lady was woken because Lucy was growling at the bedroom door. She was irate. She was like something was there. The lady tried to ignore her and she couldn't seem to get Lucy to stop. So she decided that she would open the bedroom door to show Lucy that there was nothing there. She'd done this tactic on her daughter before and it seemed to work. Anyway, she did this, she opened the door, but Lucy immediately bolted out the door and down the stairs, and at the bottom of the stairs there was a stairgate. obviously they've got a child, safety first. She stopped at this stairgate, the lady followed her, but Lucy was still very irate. She was looking at the front door and she was barking and she was growling, and the lady was tired, she was groggy, she was like, what is wrong with this bloody dog? She wasn't too concerned though, because they had only moved into the house 3 months previously as well. So the same time they got the dog, they got the house. And Lucy was having a little bit of difficulty settling, and sometimes she was up in the night when she heard a noise from outside anyway, like the garbage trucks or just the neighbours. Lucy would sit bolt upright and go to the door. The lady thought maybe Lucy needed to go to the bathroom, or she could just do what she did before, open the front door and show Lucy that there was nothing outside. However, just as she was reaching up to undo the deadbolt on the door, she felt a sense of dread, like she shouldn't open the door, and she froze in the position she was in. She couldn't explain it. She said it was just a feeling. Also, at that moment, Lucy's mannerisms started to change. She wasn't growling or barking at the door anymore. She was more whimpering and she was cowering, and she seemed to feel the same feelings that her owner was feeling. Although this lady was scared, she decided that she would look through the peephole in the door just to see if there was anything that was giving her this feeling. She was trying to brush it off like it was just her being ridiculous, but she wasn't. When she looked through the peephole, she saw 2 girls stood together on her doorstep. They hadn't knocked and they hadn't rang the bell. The older girl looked like she was 17 years old, and she was wearing jeans and a beige-coloured hoodie with her hood down. She had a long honey blonde hair and a very sharp fringe that kind of covered the top of her eyes. This lady didn't initially see her full face because she was kind of looking around the area around the door. She was holding the hand of another little girl who also had the same kind of outfit, but she had a button-down cardigan on, and she had honey blonde hair as well, but her hair was tied back into a tight ponytail. She was also carrying a battered-looking teddy. Now, the thing that freaked this woman out the most was that the clothes that the girls were wearing were clothes that she would put her daughter in, and the teddy bear that the little girl was holding was the exact replica of the teddy that her 21-month-old daughter was cuddling in bed right at this moment. She thought this was strange. And like I said, she had feelings of dread and fear, so she straight away thought that she shouldn't answer this door. So she took 1 step away from the door backwards. At that exact moment, the older girl, the 17-year-old girl, started speaking, and she said, quote, "We have to use your phone." Now, her voice was very confident. It wasn't rude. It was just confident, like she knew what she needed to do. And what confused the lady even more is that she didn't make a single noise. She didn't tell the dog to shush. She hadn't been breathing heavily. She hadn't turned the lights on. She couldn't understand how these girls knew that she was even on the other side of that door. She also said in this moment that she felt not a physical sense, but a mental sense that she needed to go back to the door and let the girls in and help them. But her fear had her so frozen that she thought that wasn't the right thing to do. So she was kind of having an internal battle as to whether she should let these girls in or not. She stood for a few more moments and then she decided that it wasn't sensible to do so, so she took another step back. Now, on the second step, the girl on the other side of the door, the 17-year-old, seemed to get a little bit more agitated. She spoke more forcefully, she was kind of angry, and she said, quote, "Our mother is going to be worried." At this moment, the lady decided that she would take another look at the girls. She wasn't going to open the door, but she wanted to have a look at them. And just at that exact moment that she poked her eye up to the peephole, both the girls lifted their heads and she saw that the girls had charcoal black eyes. Now, this lady was very much into creepy things and ghost stories and horror films, and she had already heard the story of the black-eyed children. So she knew instantly that these children couldn't gain entry unless she let them. So at this moment, she decided to start heading back upstairs with Lucy, who was still terrified and kind of around her owner's ankles. and head back up to her bedroom. While she was walking up the stairs, she could hear the older girl shouting, quote, "Just let us in to use your phone. We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to hurt you, we would have broken in." I mean, we all know that's not true because they can't gain entry, but she didn't care about that. So the lady ran up the rest of the stairs and locked her bedroom door, pulled all her curtains shut and turned on her light. She could still hear the child on the outside of the door shouting that they needed their help. "Our mother will be worried. We need to use your phone. Please let us in. Please let us in." This went on for another approximately 5 to 10 minutes. And then she finally heard the girl shout, "Please help us. We need to use your phone." And then silence. The lady obviously couldn't sleep the rest of the night. She daren't go downstairs to check to see if they are gone. So she just sat up in bed the entirety of the night, and she claims that she hasn't been able to sleep properly since. The next morning, she obviously woke up and told her husband about what had happened in the night, and he's a very logical man, and told her that it was probably just a nightmare and she had been dreaming it, but she is confident that this happened. In 2012, a film was actually released called The Black-Eyed Children, and it follows a young lady called Maura who loses her father, and then she has an encounter with a couple of black-eyed children. The film basically develops around the fact that she thinks she's going mad, just like this previous lady probably now thinks, because her husband is telling her that she's crazy. Well, he's not. He's telling her that it was probably a nightmare, but she's probably questioning whether it really happened. And this is what this film is based upon. Now, I haven't seen the film, and it's got some okay reviews. It's classed as a horror, so if you don't like horror films, don't watch it. I mean, that's obvious. But it's interesting to me. These kinds of urban legends or myths, or whatever you want to call them, ghost stories, always really interest me. I know previously we did a video on Slender Man, and this is adapting in a very similar way. A lot of these ghost stories and myths seem to start with one person that writes a story about it, and it kind of develops from there. Obviously with the Slender Man killing, that actually turned into a real life nightmare. So I'm interested to see if this one ever does. I really hope not, obviously, and I don't know how it could, but you never know with these kind of things whether they're going to turn into something different. I just find it very, very interesting, and I do like to look up these kind of things, and I will share more with you. But I know today's video was a short one, but I just wanted to do something a little bit different, and obviously there's not much background or anything about these kind of stories. I could have told 100 stories on the Black-Eyed Kids or the Black-Eyed Children, but I didn't want to go on and on and on about something that's kind of a bit repetitive. But I do have a question. Do you believe in the Black-Eyed Children? Anyway, please leave me a comment below and let me know what you think of this ghost story. Do you think it's real? Do you think people just have really good imaginations? I don't think it's real. I'm very much a believer of if I don't see it, it isn't real. Very scientific, I have to have evidence to prove things are real. So I don't necessarily believe this, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't. And it doesn't mean that I don't believe in ghosts. It just means I don't believe in demonic vampire ghosts that look like children and come into your home and try to hurt you. I don't necessarily think that is true. But please let me know if you do. And please, please, please give me some suggestions for these kind of stories. And please let me know if you liked these stories as well. Again, I'm sorry that I look like a tramp, but it is what it is. And I just want to say in this video, I just want to say thank you to everybody that has supported me and followed me on my journey so far. There's not many of you right now, and I hope that someday I will get bigger. I do want to beg people to please share my videos on Facebook and things, because it will get me much more viewers, and that's what I want to do. But yeah, so that's it. I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to leave you to go and get on with your day, whatever you were doing. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, like, comment and share. I'd really appreciate that. I love you guys very much. And again, please give me some suggestions of urban legends or myths that I can do, or ghost stories. That'd be fantastic. Have a lovely day, everybody. Please don't kill anybody or encounter any ghosts. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Love you. Bye.